In this video, we'll be revealing why everyone else in retirement seems to have more income than you, and why this perception is often based on withdrawal strategies, not actual wealth. Now, look, through working with retirees who felt behind by comparing themselves to their peers, we discovered that visible income levels rarely tell the complete story. I've had the opportunity to look behind the curtain, and I'm going to share why some of that can be the case. Now, that's exactly why we're making this video today, to show you why comparing retirement income can sometimes be misleading, but how strategic pacing often looks like falling behind and can create better long-term outcomes. So let's get right into it. Now, we call this the income visibility illusion. This can create false retirement comparisons, which I want to encourage you to avoid. Look, a lot of retirees feel behind simply because the people around them appear to have more income than they do, but visible income rarely reflects actual financial strength. Look, some retirees draw heavily from their 401ks early in retirement, creating a higher monthly income. Now, that might look impressive, but it can potentially drain their portfolio at an accelerated pace. Now, others might have a pension. Now, that looks great on paper, but many pensions don't include inflation protection, and so that stable income could potentially lose purchasing power every single year. Now, and look, sometimes people claim Social Security as early as 62. That makes it look like they have more money than they maybe do, and they could also potentially be losing long-term benefits. The point is you don't see the whole picture. Many retirees with what we call high visible income can potentially trade long-term stability for short-term confidence. Meanwhile, those with lower visible income might actually have a different strategic plan, trying to maintain their purchasing power, their tax efficiency through their entire retirement, not just focusing on the front end. Look, income visibility can potentially create, like we said, these false comparisons, but customizing your withdrawal strategy to your needs can help you to have a better pace for longevity. That's what we need to talk about. You need to customize your plan to yourself. Don't worry about what your neighbors are doing. Look, retirees who use aggressive early withdrawal strategies, they tend to look wealthier because their spendable income seems higher. But I've seen where this approach can accelerate portfolio depletion and potentially increase long-term risk. Look, I think more strategic retirees that use tax-efficient withdrawal sequencing tend to have a better outcome, not only today, but in the long run. So let's talk about systematic withdrawals, how they can provide predictable income. They may be less visible than front-loaded withdrawals, but I think they're far more sustainable when you create a system that you understand. And folks that just claim Social Security early for no other reason than to have income can potentially be taking more risk later on. So why does conservative planning appear less successful at first? Because we're optimizing for longevity, not just instant gratification. Now, look, withdrawal strategies, they can create different income patterns, but the tax burden reality shows why high visible income often means lower net spending power, which is really the most important thing that we need to drive to. Many retirees don't realize how much of their visible income is lost to taxes. Things like large 401k or IRA withdrawals can push retirees into higher tax brackets, resulting in lower net spending power. Higher income can also trigger Medicare IRMAA surcharges, costing potentially thousands of dollars a year. Now, combine that with early withdrawals of Social Security, other income, that can make your Social Security benefits taxable. In some cases, retirees pay 30+% in taxes because they didn't create an efficient withdrawal order. Now, the irony is that retirees with lower visible income, but sometimes better tax planning or more creative planning, can potentially have better long-term after-tax spending power. That's what we want to build for you. Look, if you feel like you're in a similar situation and you want clarity around your own retirement plan, just click the link below, fill out the quick form on our site. Once you submit it, our team will review your information and reach out to help you to understand exactly where you stand and what next steps you can take. Now, let's also talk about the longevity trade-off that can potentially favor a strategic pacing. Look, front-loaded spending strategies might make retirement feel abundant early on, but without planning, they can create vulnerabilities later in life. The truth is, sustainable withdrawal approaches can potentially preserve purchasing power for 30, 40 plus years, especially things like delaying Social Security claiming. These can be more effective for after-tax planning over time. Now, we think that retirees that strategically pace will end up with a higher total income compared to those who start fast and then potentially fade. Look, psychologically maintaining a stable lifestyle through retirement tends to lead to higher satisfaction than early overspending followed by forced cutbacks. That's why we're talking about planning. Now, if we're planning for longer longevity, that does also favor pacing because inflation tends to get out of control and it can be, as we've seen in recent years, more aggressive over time. I think really inflation protection is one of the biggest advantages in thoughtful retirement planning. Things like delaying Social Security benefits can help to increase your net after-tax income. Of course, people know that by delaying benefits, retirees can lock in a slightly higher starting value. Each future adjustment becomes even more valuable when it comes to cost of living adjustment. The challenge with pensions is they don't always have those cost of living adjustments. And after 10, 15, 20 plus years, retirees without inflation-protected income often find themselves in a tricky position relative to those who planned a little bit better. When we think about inflation protection, this really comes from having a balanced portfolio and not taking too much income earlier on, planning for inflation, and making sure that your portfolio is able to keep up with that in a variety of different market conditions. And look, all of this comes together in a coordinated retirement strategy. By aligning withdrawal order, tax planning, inflation protection, and Social Security timing, we believe retirees can create a plan that supports both today's lifestyle and long-term security. Our concept is that this framework adapts as markets change, as spending needs evolve, and as retirement progresses. And while it might look conservative early on, it often results in more total spending, more stability, and fewer lifestyle disruptions. So look, now that you've seen how proper planning can impact retirees, if you want to understand your own numbers, click the link below, fill out the form on the website. That form will help us to get the information we need to show you exactly how you can optimize your retirement strategy. Finally, I want to talk about your retirement mindset. Once you understand how withdrawal strategies, taxes, inflation, and longevity planning can work together, the comparisons to other retirees, we think, can really stop mattering. If you gain retirement confidence in your own strategy because you understand why your strategy is better than comparing yourself to your neighbors who you don't really know all the details, you tend to have less anxiety. You position yourself to enjoy retirement instead of just asking, am I behind? Am I keeping up? What are they doing that's different? So we want you to focus on your goals, your dreams, and how do we fund them. Now that you understand why everyone seems to have more retirement income than you, and how withdrawal strategies, tax efficiency, and longevity planning create wildly different income patterns, you can begin appreciating the strategic pacing. Creating your own income plan may look conservative, but tends to produce superior long-term results. And if you need more help with your retirement plan, please click the link below, fill out the form. It just takes 2 minutes. Once you submit it, we'll reach out and show you exactly how to optimize your retirement strategy for your situation. Thanks for watching. I'm Ian Weiner. We'll see you in the next video.